Oh, welcome into the Fantasy Coaches Podcast. Today, your host is Jabron Curtis. That is me. And on the side, we have the former host, Coach Steve. And how are we doing today, Coach?
I'm doing good, Cod Jibs. What's going on, buddy? It's a beautiful Monday here in New Jersey, so I can't complain, man. It's rookie talk time, so I'm excited.
Oh, I'm excited too because I know jack squat about these rookies, but fortunately enough for us and the guests, we did bring in another guest. You guys see him on CBS. You see him out throughout the Twitter sphere. Emory Hunt, how we doing today, brother?
I'm doing fine, man. I appreciate you guys bringing me on the show.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Like I said, I've seen I've seen your work personally, and I was like, he's a fantastic person to get on to talk rookie quarterbacks and just rookies in general. So I'm excited to have you and talk with you today.
Well, I'm glad because I only know like the top three quarterbacks or so, and I know we're gonna get into them in guess some lengthy order. But for right now, Emery, if you want to tell our viewers what do you do for the fantasy community, where they can find your stuff, the floor is yours, sir.
Well, they can follow me, on Twitter at fballgameplan. Uh, YouTube.com/football game plan is my channel. We have a lot of good football content there, college football, pro ball from all levels. And on CBS Sports HQ, sometimes on Sunday, you'll see me contribute to Fantasy Football Today, or you'll see me just doing regular football analysis pre and post game. And I'm also a big college football analyst as well over there at CBS Sports HQ. In addition to what we're doing, we did all last week, or a month ago almost, at the NFL Combine. It seems like it was last week, but it was a month ago. We're out there just talking about interviewing players and prospects. So I do a lot over there for CBS Sports regarding football.
Okay, well you heard it from the man. Go follow him, give him a subscriber on YouTube, and obviously, if you guys want some of our contact, you always can find it on thefantasycoaches.com. And then for now, we're just going to get straight into the business. We're going to talk some of these rookie quarterbacks. And starting first is Malik Willis. As you see on the slide, 2021 stats. He had 207 completions on 339 attempts for about 2,857 yards, 27 touchdowns, 12 interceptions. He also did some work on the ground, guys, 878 yards, 13 rushing touchdowns on 197 carries. If you guys don't know this guy, he plays for Liberty. It's not such a big school that you're used to in the NCAA, but he has some pretty good measurables. 6 foot tall, about 219 pounds. His hands is a 9.5 wingspan, and then 40-yard dash. He did not choose to do it. Fortunately, hopefully, he has better reasons than that. But guys, what's your analysis on Malik Willis? I understood like coming in the beginning of this class, I heard a lot about Kenny Pickett, Kenny Pickett, Kenny Pickett. But as this month or after the draft combine, I've been hearing a lot more of Malik Willis. How come he's moved up the board so fast?
Emory, you can start on this one, my
Oh,
friend.
I'm
So.
sorry, I should have asked.
Willis is someone that has been my number one quarterback since the summer. If we're talking prospect, we're talking, tools. He has been the clear cut guy. Someone that has upside, work withable skill set. He's blazing fast. He has a strong arm. He's mobile, and he gives you that +1 capability. So you get a guy like Malik Willis, you're adding to your run game, not only with his own legs, but because of his legs, you're going to have whoever's your starting tailback is going to have the benefit of being able to run against lighter boxes, more advantageous boxes, and so the run game is going to be dominant with a guy like him just under center. So to me, he's someone that I would take in the first round. Everybody else to me is more day two. Outside of Willis graded out as my number one quarterback in my draft guide, in which people can get at footballgameplan.com/2022 draft guide. Over 1,000 individual scouting reports on a lot of players in this draft. Again, over 1,000. But he's number one, and he's to me the only guy that I would feel comfortable with taking in round one based off his skill set and his upside.
Now, I'm gonna jump in some host and questions here for you, Jibs, as well. But Emory, where do you think his best fit is that he could probably shine the best in this coming draft here?
It's funny because I love what and I said this back in October. I want to say in response to a tweet another analyst had talking about he's the best quarterback and he wouldn't get past, pick number two, I believe, or something like that. And at the time, I feel like the Lions still had the number one pick, or he wouldn't get past so and so. And I said, listen, if he's that good, then he shouldn't get past the Lions because the Lions have the best setup, I thought, for Malik Willis. He doesn't have to start right away. And you look at their roster, it's tailor made for a guy with mobility. They have a very good offensive line. They have DeAndre Swift in the backfield. They also still have Jamal Williams in the backfield. So they got two dynamic tailbacks. You have a good offensive line. You got depth at tight end, and all you need now is someone that can add, a little bit more firepower to the offense. Plus, you have the luxury of playing Jared Goff. Now you can add some receivers later on in the draft. So you get Malik Willis in Detroit. I think that's the most ideal fit. Outside of Detroit, maybe someplace like Atlanta, now that they have Marcus Mariota, would be a very good fit where he doesn't have to play right away. This is the guy that I would say normally I'm playing right away, but I feel like he needs a little bit more grooming. So I would say Detroit and Atlanta are the most ideal fits. And if you want to throw a wild card in there, Tennessee would be an ideal fit too.
Now, his overall game, who does that does anyone currently in the NFL kind of compare to him that we could kind of look at like, oh, we should be looking at something like this, especially for fantasy in a general sense?
I say he's a more explosive version of Jalen Hurts. They're both built about the same, both real muscular built guys. Both have tremendous leadership capabilities. Both have the ability to run, but Willis is faster and has a stronger arm. So he's a little bit more of a dynamic version of Jalen Hurts, but can control the game the same way. People focus on the team this year and what he did at Liberty, but last season in the 2021 or 2020 campaign, they beat three ACC teams. They probably should have beaten the fourth against NC State. They lost that game by 1 point. So they played a better schedule last year and had better results. They didn't have this as good of a team this season, so the results weren't the same. But last year, they were really up there in the top 15 in the country and how well they played. And he kind of faltered a little bit down the stretch. But to go and beat Virginia Tech, to go and beat Syracuse, to go and beat these teams that normally Liberty wouldn't be able to hold a candle to, it's all because Liberty had the special player on the field in Malik Willis. So to me, he is someone that has proven out there that he can lead a team, lead a franchise, but he does need some grooming. So for me, even though I have him number one, the guy I think is most ready to play year one is Desmond Ridder out of Cincinnati.
Okay, Chips, you're back, my friend, as a host.
Okay. Do you have anything to say on Malik Willis?
I'll mention mine later when we get to the when we do me and John's rankings. Emory, we got him for only a certain amount of time here, so I want to make sure we get a lot of good information out of him.
Okay, we're gonna put Emory through the car wash then. Following Malik Willis, we're gonna go with Matt Corral. Oh no, sorry,
Kenny Pickett.
Kyle Pickett. I'm sorry. Stats don't lie, but he had 497 attempts on 334 completions, about 4,300 yards, 42 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. A little bit of utility on his legs, 98 carries for 223 yards and 5 touchdowns. And some of his height is 6'3", weighs about 217 pounds. His hands is 8.5, 40-yard dash is 4.73, and our coach Steve wanted to mention that he is from New Jersey. So I don't know if that does anything in your analysis of Kyle Pickett, Emory, but give us some thoughts on him.
My bad. It's Kenny Pickett. It was up late doing this slideshow. It's Kenny Pickett. So, right?
Yeah,
thank you.
Kenny Pickett, right.
I've seen a lot of Kenny Pickett, man. And it's interesting because it's the games I saw him live. They always fall on a Thursday night, and I'm always able to get out to that Pitt, North Carolina game. And so I've seen him over the years. That's why I always found this conversation surrounding Kenny Pickett fascinating, as if, he's been playing like he played this year his entire career. I think he's a solid quarterback, not someone that I would say is a franchise-changing quarterback. He's more of a third, fourth round type talent. So he can be, to me, an upgrade to someone's QB2. So you look around the NFL and you see how terrible a lot of the backup quarterback situations are. And now, especially with, I don't know if we're going to have the same things that we've had the last 2 years with COVID, where your backup is going to have to play at some point, and you better have someone that's capable of driving the bus. Kenny Pickett to me is someone that's capable of driving the bus. So I wouldn't personally take him in round one. I don't know if the teams view it that way, and he'll get pushed into the first round. But I just think that his talent is a bit limited in terms of potential and upside. So it's what you see is what you're going to get. The arm strength is possibly not there. Everything has to be quick and on time. He tends to struggle a little bit versus pressure. So for me, it's more of a, if you are someone, let's say like the Giants, he probably would be a really good fit for you, as someone that can help you to 2023, to where you go higher in the draft and take someone that can be your franchise guy. Because I just kind of see him as a stable QB2 at the next level.
So we're talking like Andy Dalton.
And that's why I compared him to my draft guy. Again, there's nothing wrong with Andy Dalton, but you don't take Andy Dalton in round one. Andy Dalton didn't even go in round one, and Andy Dalton was a little bit better athlete than Kenny Pickett. So for me, Dalton won some big games, played in some big games at TCU. So him going to Cincinnati, where you had those trio of wideouts, you had the run game, you had a very good defense. Everything is pretty much set for an Andy Dalton to do what? Drive the bus. And I feel like that has to be for someone like a Kenny Pickett. So again, when you look at a team later in the first round or late in the first round, that's where you probably should start to factor in someone like a Pickett that can kind of help a team. But I don't see him I see him more as a spot guy as opposed to a sustained success, quote unquote franchise guy.
All right. You definitely changed my opinion on a couple things. Doing great, Emory. So lastly, we'll get into Matt Corral. Unfortunately, like he had the least passing yards out of the three. He had 262 completions on 3,349 yards, 220 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, 152 carries for 614 yards, 11 touchdowns. Some of his measurables are 6'2". He's 212 pounds, big hands, 9.5 and he didn't do the 40-yard dash either. And he's suffering from a high ankle sprain that he suffered on January 1st. I believe that was during one of the bowl games. So, Emory, give us the deets on Matt Corral out of Ole Miss.
He's someone that has some athleticism. He can move, but he's a bit reckless when he runs. So to me, and the guy I compared him to is Taylor Heineke. Somebody that can, be a good, solid player, but you kind of are going to always be looking for someone else because he's sort of, he's the reckless guy that can't stay healthy, number one. And number two, he puts the ball far too much in harm's way for my liking. Even if you go back to the Baylor game, and which is the bowl game you reference, you talk about one of the passes there. He threw one of the worst interceptions. It was double coverage, just threw it across the middle of the field. It's like there was no need to force that throw, And so he's a streaky player. And if you're catching him in one of these hot streaks, then by all means, where he's throwing it, he's running really well, is great. But do know that there's going to be another side to that coin where he's going to be making some bad reads. He's going to be putting the ball where it does need to be. He's going to see it late, and he's also going to run himself into an injury. So for me, when you don't want to, you have too much inconsistency there and too much uncertainty in whether or not this guy's going to be there for a full 17-game season. That doesn't sound like a first-round pick to me. That sounds like someone you get in round 3 and 4. That could be an upgrade to what you currently have on the roster at QB2. And that's how I kind of view this entire class, to be honest, with one guy that can drive the bus, one guy that can give you that potential upside of being a first round, franchise changing guy. But for the most part, this is a class to where depth is going to be key in getting guys that is going to be better than what the Giants rolled out there last year when Daniel Jones got hurt. and they already addressed that with Tyrod Taylor. But you got to get someone younger because we know Tyrod is probably only on a 1 year situation, bridge guy for the next one. So you still need someone young and that you could develop. That's why I think a lot of these guys in this class kind of fall in that category.
Okay. Well, lastly, before we let you go, who's your favorite sleeper of the class? I know you mentioned Desmond Riddler before. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but is it him?
No, he's not a sleeper. I mean, for me, sleepers are guys that are, not getting talked about enough or come from small schools. And there's two of them. One is Cole Kelly out of Southeastern Louisiana, and Aqeel Glass out of Alabama A&M. Both guys played in the NFLPA Bowl. Cole Kelly ended up winning the MVP. And if it wasn't for him, Aqeel Glass would have won the MVP. Both guys had similar numbers. And Cole Kelly, to me, also fits the mold of what you would look for, let's say, in a Malik Willis. He's 6'7", 260, and he's all of 6'7" and 260 pounds. But what's interesting about him, he's not as fast as Malik Willis, not fast at all, but he had 29 rushing touchdowns. So he's definitely a significant threat inside the red zone. No one wants to tackle someone that's 6'7", 260, and he has a cannon for an arm. He's very much like Josh Allen in terms of he can run and he can throw a football through a keyhole with how hard he throws. The good part is he is someone that I think would be, if you love mobile quarterbacks and you need one, if Buffalo wants to get another version of Josh Allen behind Josh Allen and groom him, maybe as for a future move piece, then he would be a good fit in Buffalo. But Aqeel Glass is someone who won the Black College Player of the Year 2 years in a row. Just like Cole Kelly won the Walter Payton Award last year, which is the FCS equivalent to the Heisman Trophy, and was a finalist this year for it, and probably should have won it this year again. So you got two guys well accomplished. Aqeel Glass has all the attributes that you want from the position. He can throw the football with accuracy, touch, timing. He can put it anywhere he wants to on the field. He's not as mobile as a Cole Kelly, but throwing the football coming from that offense where he played at Alabama A&M under Connell Maynor, who's a tremendous quarterback in his own right when he played in college and also played in the Arena Football League. So those two guys to me are players that will end up going on day 3 that should have very good preseasons and give their team some optimism as, hey, we got a good developmental piece in the future.
I even know those cats. You're bringing more and more news to my ear, Emory. But I don't know if you have any time left. Are you good? No. Okay. No? I was talking to Emory.
Oh, I didn't know if you guys had any questions or whatnot.
Oh, John, John, what's going on? Coach
Nothing.
John?
What's going on, guys? How are you?
Emory, this is John. He's our third
Emory.
co-host. John, if you had any questions about any of the top 3 guys you wanted to get, through Emory's head here, I mean, you want to?
Yeah, I would actually just love to hear your opinion on. So the one thing I took away from Malik Willis, and to me, he's far and away the number one. This is a fantasy show, and he has every tool to be a fantasy relevant quarterback at the next level extremely well. The one thing I saw on film that I didn't love was some of his decision making. Are these coachable traits that you think someone can get their hands on at the next level and say, look, let's get you in the right system. Let's figure things out. Kind of like they did with, what am I saying? Baltimore. Why am I blanking?
Lamar Jackson.
Lamar Jackson. Thank you. Similar to what they did with Lamar Jackson, where they said, look, if we give you too much decision-making and too much, but if we let you just be athletic, more athletic than everybody else, we're going to have ourselves a quarterback. So it's just redefining what can be done with the quarterback position. Is that, am I okay? Am I right with that assessment, or am I just wrong?
Well, here's the thing with Lamar that a lot of people missed on. This is why people missed on Lamar Jackson. He came out of pro style offense at Louisville. He ran that Earhart Perkins offense under Bobby Petrino. And where else people miss is that, when you look at Petrino, we never got to see what Petrino would have looked like with Michael Vick because Vick went to jail that year. And that's why Petrino quit. That's the only reason why he left college to go coach Michael Vick. Here's what it would have looked like with, Michael Vick and Bobby Petrino, it would have looked like what we saw at Louisville with Lamar Jackson. And so Jackson actually came in, and Baltimore had to adjust, thinking that he was only a one-dimensional player when he really was what we've seen so far in the NFL. And so he's completely different to me than Malik Willis. Malik Willis is a little bit on that Jalen Hurts spectrum. Like earlier in the show, I compared him to a more explosive version of Jalen Hurts, where we saw Jalen Hurts progress every year as a passer, because once he got benched at Alabama, he had to really recharge his batteries and reassess how he was going about his business. Because keep in mind, as a freshman, as a true freshman, he got Alabama to the national championship, and it was on the strength of him running the football, taking a few timely shots down the field. And then the next year they get to the playoffs, and he gets to the title game. They had to bench him for Tua. He didn't transfer. He stayed, retooled his game. It was getting, sparse minutes throughout the season. And then they needed him again in the SEC title game, and where you saw the work that he put in all year come to fruition, where he had to beat Georgia with his arm. So with Malik Willis, just like we saw in 2020, with a harder schedule, they were beating Virginia Tech. They were beating Syracuse. They should have beaten NC State. They got off to a great start in that pandemic year. And that was just his first season of playing college football. This year, the team wasn't as good. He had to really reassess and readjust. So he's trending in that Jalen Hurts direction. So I feel like if you go to a team, and I mentioned earlier, like Detroit or Atlanta, where he can continue the grooming process and then hit the field, he gives you the leadership. He gives you the +1 ability as a runner. He gives you the A+ arm to really work touchdown to check down in the passing game. His deep ball accuracy, in my opinion, is better than where Jalen Hurts was coming out of college. So I think Malik Willis, to me, is the clear-cut prospect in the class. And if you are a team that has a veteran right now that is basically a 1-year lame duck quarterback, i.e. a Jared Goff, i.e. a Marcus Mariota, i.e. whatever they're doing in Tennessee with Tannehill, you can roll with a Malik Willis, and then you can just let him just run. Because not only he helps you out, but whoever's going to be, dotting an I in the backfield is going to, if you have Malik Willis paired with DeAndre Swift or, a Derrick Henry, those guys are going to easily crush over 2,000 yards rushing, let alone whatever Malik Willis is going to get on the ground too. So I wish he goes to a situation where he doesn't have to play this year, because that's how I think he can be his best version of himself as a pro player.
Cool. Okay. That was all really the only question I had. Because I think the rest of these quarterbacks, because it's funny, and we'll get into it more, but the rest of these quarterbacks, and Emory hit it on the head, they profile more to me as strong backup guys. None of these guys really, I look like I watched and I said, yep, they could take that next step and be a huge player in the NFL. Matt Corral, good guy, probably going to be a good quarterback. He could spot start if you need him. But I don't think any team is going to fall in love with Matt Corral and say, let's build a franchise around this guy. That's just, and the only one to me that had that potential, it was Malik Willis. Was the only one that I saw, and I said, I could see a team really falling in love with this guy and saying, let's try and build something around him. So,
yeah, one of the places that people tend to force quarterbacks in the draft class, I think, is Pittsburgh. But Pittsburgh, if you look at what Pittsburgh's done, and maybe they still draft a quarterback or whatnot, but whatever. But if you look at what they did, they signed Mitch Trubisky to basically a QB2 type deal. They already had Mason Rudolph on the roster, and they tendered Dwayne Haskins, who is 23, 24 maybe, still hasn't started a full season. I think he may be turning 24, just turned 24, still hasn't started a full season yet as a pro. They tendered him his original round tender. So if someone wanted Dwayne Haskins, they would have to have given the Steelers a first round pick. You don't do that for someone that you have no plan for. And if we're talking talent, Haskins is already better then Trubisky, and Rudolph. So I think this is a situation where Haskins will beat out both Rudolph and Trubisky, and they will let go Rudolph and draft someone later in the draft to be their QB3 or developmental guy. So I don't think Pittsburgh takes someone. And I know a lot of people have forced, Malik Willis to a Pittsburgh. This doesn't seem like the aggressive move Pittsburgh is going to do to jump all the way up to get someone when they still have 10. I mean, Dwayne Haskins, again, he's been in the system for a year. They spoke highly of him at the combine of what he was able to do within the walls of that organization last year. And if we're keeping it 100, he beat out Mason Rudolph last year in the preseason, outplayed him, but they didn't want to throw him out there because they didn't have to. There was no reason to throw him out there. So he just continue to work on him being a pro. I think he's probably one of the more, non-talked about pieces of this whole quarterback situation than anybody. Because as much as people want to make him a punchline, there's no denying the talent that he had coming out of Ohio State and going into that situation. And we know Pittsburgh tends to let guys develop and play. I don't see Pittsburgh taking a quarterback. So for me, it's about which team in the top 10 is going to either quote unquote reach, or how far does a quarterback fall? Because I don't see. And I know you're going to get 3 quarterbacks probably go in the first round, but I have a hard time seeing 3 to 4 first round worthy quarterbacks. It will be just 2012 all over again, or 2013 where you get or 11 maybe, where you get your Christian Ponders and those guys going in the first round, where it's clearly that they weren't first round picks.
Yeah. I remember that year. That was a holy smokes. Yeah, that was Cam Newton year, correct?
I think that was Cam Newton year.
And then everyone else just got propped up on the Cam Newton hype, and then teams just went crazy. Yeah.
Tannehill, Gabbert and Locker.
Blaine Gabbert, Locker. Yeah. A whole bunch of average. A whole bunch of average in that class, other than Superman Cam.
Oh Lord. Well, that's definitely an interesting take you had there, Emory. Like, because everywhere I see on Twitter or on news sites or whatnot, wherever, you always see, Pittsburgh, Malik Willis, but like, I didn't think that they were that like in love with Dwayne Haskins. But you being like an insider in a way, like you have some information I didn't know about, and I'm kind of glad that they believe in Dwayne Haskins, and hopefully he gets his shot, and we'll see the man do well.
Now, all this could change if they draft a quarterback in the first round. Obviously, that's different. Mm-hmm. But I just don't see them. Even if let's say they take Kenny Pickett, he's better than Kenny Pickett. Right. And if it's a true open competition, it'll look like Dwayne Haskins should be the starter over Pickett, not Gabbert, but Trubisky and Rudolph. Like,
yeah. I think teams are going to get scared about taking these quarterbacks because now they're liable for 5 years or whatever they're going to have to do. So, yeah.
But then it's interesting. You got some teams that sort of painted themselves into a corner, like Carolina, who you think to yourself, like, they almost have to take a quarterback, which it's like, do you want to at that point? And it's like, I don't know. But if you're Carolina, you got heads will roll if you guys have another crap season. And so, it's interesting. I think there will be a team that goes aggressive after a quarterback. I just don't. And to me, that quarterback is Malik Willis, because I just think that he has the most tools around him. But I think that there's a team that falls in love and takes a guy in the top 10. I just do.
Yeah. Carolina, Detroit, Atlanta would be the teams that I would think would be on Willis watch,
Willis watch.
I like that.
Because Carolina, to be honest, if you look at their roster, they just need a quarterback, to be honest. Mm-hmm. Like, they need someone that can, and again, maybe someone like a Desmond Ridder at the top of round 2 would be good for Carolina. That someone that has played a lot of games, played some winning football, played some playoff games, played some championship games. Maybe he would be the ideal fit for them, but not at number 6. But do you trust whoever they take? Do you trust this staff to really work with that quarterback? And that, because this is the same staff that told people that Sam Darnold was better than Teddy Bridgewater. And we knew that wasn't the case. Like we knew there was going to be a drop off from Bridgewater, who was injured that year, to Sam Darnold, and that's what it exactly was.
Definitely agree with
It's
that.
high stakes, April 28th. For sure, man. Oh Lord. Well, that was excellent analysis, Emory. I don't know if you have to run now. I tried to get you off the podcast like 20 minutes before, a little preemptively, but is there anything else you want to say before you leave us for today?
I appreciate you guys having me on, and again, you can go and order the draft guide at footballgameplan.com/2022 draft guide. Over 1,000 individual scouting reports. It's the largest draft guide in history. So you talk about 3 quarterbacks here. We grade 70 quarterbacks in the draft guide, 120 something running backs, 150 wide receivers. So we go deep in that draft guide, the largest draft guide in existence ever. No one has 1,000 individual scouting reports. Footballgameplan.com/2022 draft guide.
Yeah, so check it out, guys, for sure. And Emory, thanks so much for joining. This was great. A lot of great insight. Definitely loved having you on.
Appreciate you guys. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
All right, boys. Just the 3 of us now.
We are the 3 best friends that anyone can have.
I'm just writing my notes.
Jim is taking fantasy advice right now during the podcast.
Yeah, that was listen. Woo. Yeah, I should have been.
We're not over yet, guys. If you hear us this bullshitting right now, we're not done yet. But that was
no, yeah, we gotta get serious. I'm sorry.
Yeah, Emory had a short time frame. We had to get him, and then we wanted to have him talk and whatnot. And I want to get. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm not the host, Jibs.
Yeah, get out of here. So, guys, I know it's a little mumble jumble, but we're gonna get into our news segment halfway through the fantasy podcast, and I'm gonna bring to you Andy Dalton signs a 1-year deal with the New Orleans Saints. How do you guys feel about that? Short and sweet.
No more Taysom Hill, finally. Thank gosh.
Yeah, good backup. I think what it does to me is it sort of just solidifies that I think the Saints are okay with Jameis Winston, and they're gonna just roll with Jameis, and Dalton's gonna back him up and maybe push him in camp a little. But yeah, it's a standard pro signing.
All right, well, ESPN, Yahoo, make sure Taysom Hill's a goddamn tight end next year. We don't want no freaking
quarterback
hoopla and crazy
seriously
things going. So the NFL changed the playoff rules. This is like the Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen rule now. Each team gets an overtime possession now. So that's pretty good. I wish that game in the AFC title divisional game went like neck to neck, 4 more possessions. The weird news, Bruce Arians retires from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He didn't retire. He moved into the front office.
He retired from coaching.
Okay, retires from coaching. Todd Bowles is a new head coach. In conjunction with that, Gio Bernard re-signs with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Over
nothing. just like last year, no impact.
Yeah, no impact.
Good locker room guy, great mustache.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll get a little bit more run without a couple more heads in the running back room. I believe on Friday or Saturday morning, Devontae Parker was traded to the New England Patriots for a 5th round pick off the top of my head.
Yeah, it was for a 3rd round. It was Parker, 5th round pick for a 3rd round pick next year.
Yeah. Well, they got themselves a playmaker, and I guess there's more room for Waddle to waddle on down in Miami. And then this came in, I think, a little bit after 3 o'clock or so. But the Eagles and Saints made a trade. The Eagles get
trade alert.
They traded the 16th pick, the 19th pick, and the 194th pick in 2022 for the Saints' 18th pick in 2022, 101st, 237th, a 2023 first round, and a 2024 4th round. I wish they kind of kept the picks and stockpiled, but I've been loving, like, they need to like mirror what the Giants are doing, because the Giants keep getting more and more draft capital, and like our team's not ready to win yet. So the more capital we get, the more players, and hopefully Howie Roseman can pick the right freaking guy. But guys, how do you feel about this?
It basically tells me personally that the Eagles aren't looking to get a quarterback in this draft class, and the Saints are looking to make a big impact, which I don't believe at quarterback, but either on the defense or on the offensive side of the ball right now.
Yeah, I agree. I think this is a smart trade for the Eagles. They're just collecting future assets. They're going to roll with Jalen Hurts and say, look, what we got's what we got. And they're just amassing more picks in the future. I think it's a good trade. They didn't move down that much. They moved actually up one pick in the first and then got an extra. I don't think the Saints are going to be great next year. So that 2023 first could be higher than a top 19 pick. So I think it was a good trade.
Lovely. I'm in agreement, guys.
I hope so.
But we're gonna get back into the QB talk, guys. We just went over Malik Willis, Kenny Pickett, and we went over Matt Corral. But the fourth quarterback that we're gonna talk about is Desmond Riddler. He had 251 completions for 3,334 yards, 30 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. He ran for 110 times for 355 yards and 6 touchdowns. Career best in the senior season in terms of a passer, fewest rushing yards in 4 years. So some of his measurable guys, he's 6'3", 211 pounds, huge hands, 10-inch, and he has a 40-yard dash of 4.52, guys. So John, since I know you've been dying for some mic time, I want to get you this question first. So tell me a little bit something on Desmond Riddler. What do you like about him? One thing you like, one thing you don't like about him.
So one thing I do like about him is I like that his outside throws, the way he can throw outside the numbers is very a pro style throw. And that's what I look for because that's what you're going to be asked to do at the next level. He can do that really well. So, and he can command an offense and command a pocket really well. You know, he can kind of shift he's mobile, but not running. Mobile in terms of he can move around behind the line of scrimmage. And so I think he can extend plays with his legs. I think he can make those throws outside the numbers. I think those are things that you look for in a pro. Things I don't like, I don't like some of his decisions to run with the ball when he hangs onto it a little too much. I think you should, if you're not going to make a completion, throw it away. Because in the NFL, those are going to turn into sacks. Those aren't going to be, let me dance around behind the line and get to the sideline real quick. Aaron Donald's going to rip you to the ground. So that's the only question I have with him. But other than that, I think he's probably higher up pro boards than we want to admit.
Jibs, you're on mute, my friend.
No, I'm not. You're on mute.
You might be.
No, but Steve, give me one thing you like about him and one thing you don't like about him, and then we'll get into your rankings.
Yeah, I think we have one more quarterback talk to after this, I think. But
okay.
Just kind of like John said, honestly, I think he has the make to be a good NFL quarterback. Honestly, I think he can make all these throws. He's able to throw on the run. He's mobile enough, like John said, to escape from the pocket when he needs to. And he was good through his college career. That's what I like to see. He was good through his college career, and he made a bigger jump his senior year as a passer, and he became less of a mobile quarterback where it's just run, run, run. He actually threw the ball more, and you could see that in the PowerPoint if you're on YouTube or whatever. But again, there's things that he needs coaching on, decision making. His ability to handle pressure situations, his ball placement at times can be a little shaky. So those things are coachable, I think, personally, where I think if he gets into the right situation, he has a real good chance to succeed. I think if outside of Willis, he might have the biggest upside. It's just that he has these negatives that kind of bring him down. If he's coached right, if he's put into the right system, Ritter could be a really good fantasy asset or just an NFL quarterback in this league.
Okay. Speaking of right system, do you have a specific destination in mind that you would think that he'll have the best chance of succeeding in?
I do. I love him in Pittsburgh still. I don't think Pittsburgh will take him at the 20th pick overall, personally. But I did like him in Pittsburgh. The likely option that Detroit takes him at the end of the first round, beginning of the second round, that seems like a logical destination. If they don't want to make that reach from Willis, they get a similar quarterback with less mobility. But I think he can make just as many throws as a guy like Willis can. So those are probably the best options. Not the best options, but the likely options.
John, you have anything in particular?
I would love to see him in Seattle. I think Seattle still has some weapons. I think the problem is Seattle's front office and as an organization, they've made it very clear that they're planning towards the future. not this year future. So I don't even think that they're in the market to take a quarterback and think that they're going to keep pieces around. I think they're going to peel more pieces away, if anything. But as the rosters are constituted, I would love to see him drop in there with DK and Rashad Penny and Tyler Lockett and have some, I think he's got some real upside.
I think I need to watch more college sports, because when he brought up Desmond Riddler, I was like, what? Like, this guy's real? But
he's great.
I think Seattle would be an interesting point. Like, at least, like, given Emory's analysis and what you and Steve said, like, the guy has the, I guess, untangibles that we all like for a quarterback to have. He just needs some grooming. And obviously, I know, like, Seattle isn't any place, he ain't going anywhere fast. So I think he could be groomed in Seattle. I like that pick as a destination. And then Steve, obviously, like, I've been on Pittsburgh as well, but I'd rather see him go to, like, Tennessee or something, because that does definitely give him a window and sit behind Tannehill. I don't know if he's going to learn much or any good things from Tannehill, but at least it's a destination.
I think Riddler is either going to be a first-round pick by the Lions, so they're going to get that fifth-year option, or he's going to fall in the draft, unfortunately. And it's not his talent. I think it's just the way this quarterback class that Emory said when he was on, that people are just not found at this class right now. And if three quarterbacks to go in the first round, it's going to be like that 2013 class where EJ Manuel went at the 15th pick, and then everyone was a second or third round pick. And I think that's what's going to it's either going to be like the Christian Ponder class, or it's going to be the EJ Manuel class. That's what we're going to get.
All right. Yeah. Well, enough with Desmond. We're going to go on to Mr. UNC boy. I'm guessing he's happy with his team's Final Four win on Saturday night. But Sam Howell, 217 completions, 347 attempts for 3,056 yards, 24 touchdowns, 9 interceptions, 183 carries for 828 yards and 11 touchdowns. Although it was his worst passing season in 3 years, it was a major surprise to his rushing ability. The man was 6'1". He weighs 218 pounds, 9 1/8 handspan, and these quarterbacks don't want to run the 40-yard dash, man. These guys.
I've looked everywhere for the 40s. I couldn't find it anywhere. None of them ran at the combine, basically.
They probably just too slow. But all right, Steve, I'm gonna start you off with Sam Howell. Doesn't really have anything that glaringly pops off the screen, but why would Sam Howell be in I guess the 5th spot in, like, dynasty minds or fantasy minds?
5th spot, man. He's my number 1 quarterback in this draft class.
Oh God. Okay.
Yeah, get out
so why is he number 1 for you? Please tell us.
The way I see it is, I feel like because of the season he had this year, people are just turned off by Sam Howell as an actual quarterback. And again, this draft class is already in general just not a great class anyway. But the way I see Sam Howell is that he's got some mobility to his game. He absolutely, he was like a guy who was like maybe 200 rushing yards at most over his first 2 seasons. And then this year he popped off for like 800 yards. And the reason was, I think, because he lost all his weapons last year. I mean, you lose Michael Carter, Javonte Williams, Des Newsome, Diami Brown. Like, he lost basically his whole he basically lost his 4 top receiving targets last season. And now it's college. You're getting these young guys coming. It's not the NFL where you just pay people to come and play running back and wide receiver. It's the young guys that need to groom and get better. So the way his season went, it looked bad. I mean, 24 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. His first season, he threw 34 touchdowns his rookie year. And he threw 30 his sophomore year with, again, talent around him. And I think he might not be a quarterback that can do it on his own. But I feel like if he's put in the right situation, he could be the best quarterback in this class year. He's got decision-making issues. He's got, issues against pressure, which most quarterbacks do. But he's got an underrated arm to me personally. And I think his accuracy, and I love accuracy in quarterback. If you haven't heard me talk about accuracy in young quarterbacks, I love it. He's a very accurate quarterback. And I think that if he's put in the right situation, he could end up being the best quarterback in this class. Where right now, I think a lot of people have him as a 3rd, 4th, maybe even 5th, like you even said, Jibs, in this draft ranking.
That's quite surprising that you have him number one, especially. I know, like, given the fact that he lost some talent around him, and UNC isn't going to be getting these 5-star recruits like Alabama and the SEC gets,
If
but the
it
ACC
helps,
was what happened?
if it helps, if I'm looking at a fantasy aspect, Malik Willis has a better fantasy value than Howell does. But if in terms of an NFL prospect, I think Howell is better than Malik Willis. That's the only thing.
Okay, because I was just gonna say, like, the ACC was incredibly weak last year. You seen like Clemson
Went down.
give up some of their dominance to Georgia. I mean Wake Forest and Georgia Tech and some of the other like non thought of ACC teams. So like that's why I kind of find it surprising. But everyone is entitled to your opinion. Like I didn't believe you last year when you were talking Zach Wilson so much, and you showed me something, Steve. So I'm gonna give you a little bit. I'm gonna put $1 in for your thought right there,
Thanks.
John, buddy.
Yeah,
I know he ain't number one for you.
Mm-mm.
No,
Mm-mm.
no.
He is not. Sam Howell to me is a. The reason why I don't like Sam Howell is one of the things that Coach Steve brought up, which is he can't elevate the people around him. He needs talent around him. He needs to be in a great situation, which as a prospect, I don't want to see that because we all know you're not going to be in a perfect situation in the NFL ever. It's just, it's rare. I think, what makes guys like Joe Burrow so great is he can elevate the people around him. What makes guys, like some of these great quarterbacks, these Justin Herberts, these Josh Allens, they can elevate their game and elevate the people around them. I don't think Sam Howell can do that. I think Sam Howell is good. I think he can run an offense. I think he could step in and certainly fill a gap. But, I think when you're drafting a guy, especially if you're going to, put your eggs in that basket, you got to say to yourself, is he going to move the needle for my franchise? That's what you have to ask. And I just don't think Sam Howell moves the needle for a franchise any which way. I think he's just fine. He's Jimmy Garoppolo. He's a good quarterback. He can run a team and he can perform at a pro level and do what you need to do. And if he's in a good situation, he's got great people around him, he can distribute the ball. But if I'm a GM and I'm running a team, I want a guy who's going to make a difference, whether he's raw and toolsy like a Malik Willis. If he does pan out, that changes my franchise. Sam Howell to me is good, but he's not going to change my franchise.
Just average Joe.
He's just good. He's a good quarterback. And that's the problem. This whole class, and we've been blinded as dynasty players over the past 2-3 years because we've had such an influx of great quarterbacks that have come in. We haven't had a real bust year in a while. I think this could be that year where we're like, oh, this just isn't a great year for quarterbacks. It's just not. And so c'est la vie. There isn't that Kyler Murray at the top of the class, and there isn't, the depth that we've seen before, where like last year where we saw 5 guys go in the top 20. There's just no depth like that. So I think this is just going to be a lot of, day 2 guys, day 3 guys. And, it sucks because we want to sit here and project upside for fantasy. I want to sit here and have a show where I'm like, yeah, Sam Howell's going to light the world on fire. I would love to have that show. I just don't think, I think Sam Howell is going to be a very serviceable backup.
I think people need to understand, especially in a fantasy aspect of these things, is that if you're trying to rebuild your, say, super flex league right now with quarterbacks, this isn't the class to do it. You might as well spend first round picks for Justin Fields, Zach Wilson. Trey Lance is probably too much. Maybe Lawrence, if people are down on him. I'd rather trade a first round pick for any one of those quarterbacks than stick around and hope the best for Malik Willis or Howell or any of these quarterbacks, honestly.
Yeah. I mean, you're getting, so to me, if you like Sam Howell, if for fantasy, if like your idea is, let me draft Sam Howell in the back of the first round, go trade a second round pick for Mac Jones and just start Mac Jones and use your first for, George Pickens and do it that way. You don't have to, you know what I'm saying? Like that's kind of my vibe with Sam Howell, Matt Corral, a lot of these guys is just, they're good, but they're not difference makers.
I feel you. I definitely feel you guys. But besides these five quarterbacks, there's any other quarterback in this year's draft class that you want to give some light on?
Go to our rankings, my guy.
Go to your rankings.
Yeah, they're on here. That should be the next slide.
Yeah, too bad the number's out of order, buddy. Okay.
I would say Carson Strong. I like Carson Strong a lot. When I watch Carson Strong, what he does well is he's got in his name. He's got a missile for an arm. He can throw the ball through the roof. So, he's a toolsy guy with a good arm that kind of reminds me of like a Zach Wilson. Can make all those throws on the run. Can do all that different stuff. He's just. Where I think he falls short in terms of fantasy is his outside of the pocket imaginative. He's just not really, he doesn't have it. But if the throw is there, if his first or second read is there, he can throw it on a dime and he can throw it 60 yards on a frozen rope. So I like Carson Strong a lot. He's I'll air quote it as a sleeper, but he's the one guy that we didn't talk about, but I think is worth being talked about.
Coach Steve, who do you got for me?
Yeah, I mean, Carson Strong, he's probably one of the strongest arms in the class. His mobility is like an 85-year-old man, really, honestly. Mobility in his game there. But he does have the passing abilities that some of these quarterbacks actually above him might not actually have. I do like Jake Cohn from Notre Dame. He was someone that I really liked. I feel like he presented really good, leadership qualities there, ability to throw the deep ball, just an overall, decent quarterback that if he got a backup job somewhere and he had to start, he'd be okay. He's got some accuracy issues, but he was somebody that I thought in the late rounds could be worthy of a pick. Bailey Zappa, he kind of runs kind of like a mobility quarterback to some extent. But again, he wasn't anyone that was insane. Again, most of this class after even 5 it's pretty bad to look at, to be honest.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm sure we'll have a lot of discussion when we get to the running backs, wide receivers. Probably not tight ends, obviously.
They're much more fun to talk about. That's for sure.
Yeah.
So much more fun. This is the class to go for at least the wide receiver. The wide receiver class podcast will be fantastic.
It's just we're in the mix of just an influx of great wide receivers over the past couple years, and it's another class of it of just awesomeness. It's so fun. Yeah, and as great as it's been, it looks like another fun class, which is so cool.
And I'll tell you pretty early right now, before we go, Jibs, the RBs, depending on what John does, I don't have John's rankings yet, but the top seems to be pretty consistent, and then after 4, it gets a little wild. So
love it.
You're either going to get a lot of different running back takes from us. Hopefully we can fit it in the hour. We'll do our best, but it's going to be interesting next week for sure.
All right, one question let me read this right. For John, why do you like Matt Corral so much?
I like Matt Corral.
Why do I like Matt Corral? What I liked about him on film was I liked that he could make the throws that you want to see a pro. Like I said, outside the numbers, you want to see a pro make these throws. I think he can run an offense. He can handle himself well in the pocket. He can move and manipulate a pocket well without having to give it up. So, those are things that I look for. What he doesn't do well, he makes bad decisions in the middle of the field. And in the middle of the field is where you throw your picks. And so I think he could be a turnover machine at the next level, which is scary. But if things go well for Matt Corral, I think that they could go well. He's just, again, to me, he has more upside than a Sam Howell. Sam Howell is probably a better prospect, less holes in his game, but it's like, I don't need like average. If I want someone who I think is going to be great. And I think Matt Corral has a little bit more greatness to him.
Okay, well, that's an honest opinion, and you're entitled to it. So,
yeah, and these quarterbacks. And by the way, I know people who work in the Patriots front office, and nobody knows anything about these quarterbacks. There is a lot of people who experts in the field that I talk to that are like, yeah, I have one person will tell me one thing about Kenny Pickett, and then I'll have a completely different opinion from someone else. And it's just like, it's this class is really hard to gauge. Everyone sort of thinks Malik Willis is the guy, and then everyone else's numbers after that are all opinion based on what you like in a prospect. And that's what's also fun. It's also what makes for good conversation.
That's true. Yeah.
But I know people who, I talk to people who have Desmond Ridder at 2 and think Desmond Ridder is, sort of the guy and could be, getting slept on and could be a top 20 pick and could be the guy that goes to Pittsburgh. And I'm like, yeah, maybe. I mean, this class is just so strange. This class is last year. I feel like we kind of knew who the top 3. I mean, it started getting iffy after Trey Lance, but we knew who the top 5 guys were. We all knew they were probably going to be first round picks. It's like, we don't know anything about these guys. 1 could be in the first round. 5 could be in the first round. It's crazy. It's crazy.
That's the best way to put this class, to be honest here, for sure.
For sure. Well, a nice little synopsis, guys, for this episode is trust in your heart. Go grab Malik Willis in your dynasty drafts, superflex drafts.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone else, you better just hold and wait. Don't be grabbing it just because it's a red QB in the sleeper app. Just hold on, make better moves that you could kind of give your whole roster some flexibility as the years progress.
For sure. And if what you're looking for is just a starter quality, my point is a lot of these guys after Malik Willis are just starter quality guys. And if that's what you're looking for fantasy purposes, go trade for Kirk Cousins. You don't have to give up anything, and you can get Kirk Cousins on your team. And you don't have to give up, much for a rookie pick or anything, if anything. So that's been my sort of attitude towards these guys is like, I'd rather have Mac Jones. I'd rather have Kirk Cousins. I'd rather have Derek Carr. I'd rather have some of these, and you could trade nothing for these pieces and get them.
And they got a job currently.
And they have a job currently in a good scenario, in a good situation, and they're going to play well. It's like, that's how I feel about this class. If that says anything.
All right. Well, I'm going to wrap it up just for the listeners out there who don't have the slides. Coach Steve's top 10 is Sam Howell, Malik Willis, Kenny Pickett, Desmond Ridder, Matt Corral, number 5, Carson Strong, number 6, Bailey Zappe, number 7, Jack Cohn, number 8, Derek King, number 9, and Brock Purdy, number 10. Coach John's top 7 is Malik Willis, Matt Corral, Kenny Pickett, Sam Howell, Desmond Ridder, Carson Strong, and Caleb Ellaby.
Mm-hmm.
All righty. And that's going to end episode 198 of the Rookie 2022 quarterback. It's almost episode 200. That's going to be about 3 weeks. And hopefully I'm on the island drinking some pina coladas, but probably not. But besides that, guys, a great episode. As always, you can follow us at www.thefantasycoaches.com, where you can find our articles, rankings, videos, podcasts, and much more on the website.
Yeah.
Coach Steve is always working around the clock trying to figure out new things, new information, anything to get more viewers. So you have a friend, you tell them to go to www.thefantasycoaches.com. If you have a YouTube account, same thing, Coaches Fantasy. Get them subscribers up. John, where can they find you on social media?
At FTLS_JBats. You can catch me every Monday on Fantasy Coaches, baby. So
you heard
Coach
Steve. Where they can find you at, brother?
Yeah, bro. I mean, always, on Twitter, Coach Steve and P, guys. I'm always there helping out, giving fantasy advice as much as I can, guys. So I'm doing a whole bunch of things, more than I need to, for many little I get paid for it. So check me out, guys.
Oh man, Coach Steve, we need to get you a coffee to get you back in this hosting gig. You have no energy, brother. No energy.
I'm just chilling now. I out now. I don't have to be all perky, man. I'm just chilling.
There you go. You can find me at Hot Take Honcho. I don't use Twitter, so I just regulate the fantasy Twitter sphere. So great episode, boys. I don't know how to end it, Steve, so you have to do that.
I got it. All right. And we are done.